On this week's show, we bring you the stories of former Flames athletes who followed a calling into coaching.
From a former football player now coaching volleyball to a field hockey alum building her own program. Their stories of faith and the impact that Liberty had on their lives coming up on this Flame Central.
Another week, more great stories to share with you. Welcome into Flame Central, your home for all things Liberty Athletics. As always, alongside Emily Austin, I'm Matt Warner.
Today, we're doing something a little different. The focus of this week's show is on former Flames who are now impacting lives in the profession of coaching.
I've heard it said before, the most influential person in a young man's life or a woman's life, maybe not a pastor, maybe not a teacher, a lot of times it's actually a coach. And the people we highlight today certainly fit that description.
Our first story is about a former Liberty football player who's found his calling as a volleyball coach. But it was his time spent here on the mountain and those that poured into him that set the foundation for what he's doing today.
I believe football by nature creates a bond of young men that, if it's recognized, lasts a lifetime.
First and 10 at the 23-yard line.
Liberty, changed my life. There's no question about it. And football was that catalyst. I was a young Christian at that time and growing, but I had enough spiritual maturity about me to realize this was a special place.
Former Liberty running back Greg Mosely would play 4 seasons at LU. But how he would get to Lynchburg, Virginia, and what he experienced.
Well, that's an interesting story. I'm a high school senior and had a great season, getting a lot of recruiting attention, but no offers.
Then one Friday after Christmas, Coach Lee Kaltenbach would visit Greg at his home in Jacksonville, Florida. And by Sunday, the two would make the drive up to Lynchburg for a visit.
Now, I think this was probably pre-NCAA rule violation type of things and stuff like that. So anyway, I drove up with him. I remember he wanted me to drive through South Carolina because back then, if you got a ticket in South Carolina, it wouldn't count against you in Virginia. But he had several tickets. If he got another one, his license would have been revoked.
Once on campus, Greg would hand his high school highlight reel to then head coach Tom Dowling. After viewing the tape, Dowling would immediately type up a full scholarship for Greg to sign.
I just wanted to play. I knew nothing about Liberty. Nothing. I knew nothing about a dress code. I knew nothing about a music standard. There was nothing about Liberty that was attractive in the way of facility, in the way of dormitories. The island was unique because there were mountains on both sides of it sitting above us. In the summertime, it was 10 degrees hotter and gnats and yellow jackets. And then in the wintertime, it was 10 degrees colder. It made for quite an environment to do 3-a-days, and yes, we did 3 legitimate practices a day. Our weight room was a barn. Some of the weights that we had were probably handmade. Maybe they were 45 pounds, they might have been 55 pounds, we don't know exactly.
Greg Mosely's in the backfield.
But Greg would not be fazed.
Verso hands it off, pretending a fake. Mosely is going to score. What a play. Greg Mosely from the line of scrimmage. I can't believe it. Flames fans going crazy.
And when Greg took the field for the last time, he would rush for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns.
I knew I was hanging the cleats up, and it was freeing. It was very satisfying, to go out that way, and sort of all the years that I played from 10 years old until 21, kind of just all got put into that game. And so now it's made some really special memories. I graduated and really was burnt out of sport. I didn't even watch a football game for about 2 years.
But Greg had always felt a calling to work with young athletes, and so a love for coaching was born.
I'd coached everything. I can remember the first time I coached soccer. They didn't have football, they had soccer. I'd never coached soccer. I didn't know the rules of soccer.
Greg learned the ins and outs of coaching new sports and building new programs. In fact, he would go on to lead multiple North Carolina basketball and volleyball teams to high school state championships.
We took a team that was 10-9 Next year we won 17, next year we won 25, next year we won state championship, and then a state championship, then a state championship.
And when the call came to move up to the college level, Greg would take over as head volleyball coach at North Greenville University, a struggling NCAA Division II program in desperate need of a winning season.
Do not let a ball go out and fall in front of you, because we started rolling sleeves up and getting after it. We weren't down here ready and waiting for a cover. First year we won 19, and since that time we're averaging about 19 a year. Last 3 we've won 20, including this year. Been in the finals 2 years, been beaten 5, semifinals beaten 5 over the last 3 years, and so we're close. Nice. Our goal now has been to get an NCAA bid and continue to move up and build this program. Take the ball that you're going this way with it, push it back to the 1. And let's just see if you can't do that. Start working on that, getting stronger with that ball. I demonstrate to them my passion. Go in and get deep, where you got to transition and you can get downhill, hitting the ball, okay? I want them to have the experiences that last a lifetime. I want the players that I coach to be able to experience what I experienced through athletics. If you're in good position as the block and you penetrate up, Paul said we're seed sowers and water boys. And we sow seed and we water. We sow seed and we water. God gets the glory for all that. We just look for the opportunities to be able to be used. Hallie Ruth, I need you back here. I want y'all to serve. The fulfillment as we age of knowing when you get up that you have ministry wherever you are, that you are able to draw upon the things of the past, the things that have influenced your life, the people that have influenced your life, and go out and be that kind of influence. Tomorrow we come back, got a full 2 hours. I believe that that's what Dr. Falwell was talking about when he said that he's training champions for Christ. Everybody up? Who wants to talk to Jesus?
I got it. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for allowing us to come together, Lord, and play this sport, Lord. I pray for everyone that's injured or sick, Lord. I pray you just heal them up and comfort them and be with them, Lord. And I just thank you for all your many blessings. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Thanks to John Pratt for producing that piece. Well, our next story is about a former Flame who just so happens to have returned to coach here. Heather Zeeland, formerly Heather Sagan, is one of only 3 track and field national champions in Flames history. She never expected to be a national champ, much in the same way she never expected to be a coach. But in both cases, she was faithful to follow God's calling.
Liberty Hall of Famer Heather Zeeland is a decorated athlete who holds a long list of achievements from her time on the LU cross country and track teams. But unlike most collegiate superstars, running competitively was never part of her plan.
I happened upon the sport by chance. My mom had encouraged me to do track several times, and it just wasn't something that I was interested in. And a few friends of mine encouraged me to join the cross country team in high school my junior year. And so I just decided to try something new.
With a heart for missions, Heather wasn't quite ready to begin her college career. But after stepping on campus at Liberty University, she would begin to realize that God had other plans.
I had in my mind separated the world of athletics and ministry. And so when I came onto campus and I spoke with Coach Tolsma and I met one of the athletes on the team, I realized what a tight fusion of faith and athletics was part of the program. Like, that was central to the program. And it intrigued me, it ignited me, and when I prayed about it, God said, "This is where I want you."
After a slow start to her running career, Heather, once again, would find herself at an unexpected crossroad.
My sophomore year was really rough because every race, instead of getting faster, in spite of training hard, I was getting slower and slower. And I had a crisis moment where I had to come to the Lord and say, I don't know if this is for me anymore. And I was ready to throw in the towel when it comes to my running in college. And I spent time praying and asking the Lord what he had for me. And he told me he just wanted me to surrender it and run only for him, not for my teammates, not for my coaches, not for my family, not for my own personal goals, but to run only for him. In that moment, I had to reestablish how to define success, really. It changed my perspective and how I trained, how I competed, and how I defined success.
With this new perspective from God, success would follow. Zeeland would go on to be named a 14-time Big South champion, a 2-time All-American, and Liberty University's first ever NCAA Division I title winner.
Senior from Liberty College, swinging wide down the home stretch, 40 meters to go. Sagan on the outside, Nielsen on the inside. Heather Sagan from Liberty shocks the field and wins in 4 minutes and 38 seconds.
After her Liberty racing days came to an end, God would surprise her with an unexpected opportunity.
Coaching was never something that I thought I would be doing with my life. When I graduated and Coach Tolsma offered me the job, it was something that wasn't even on my mind. But when I thought through and prayed through the opportunity, there wasn't a whole lot holding me back from making that decision. And so when the position was offered to me, I prayed about it, and I knew in my heart that it was something God had been already putting in motion for me.
Today, Heather Zeeland serves as the assistant cross-country coach, developing champions for Christ. And out of all of the titles she's held through the years, her favorite one would be
Child of God. It's my favorite title. It's what makes all the other things what they are. When we really rest in who we are in Christ and we know how much He loves us, everything we do is just walking out what He has for us. And we go through victories and defeats, and all of it, it has purpose. All of it, we're with our Creator. And so that's, being a child of God is the best role.
2, 3, that was good.
All right, we take a quick timeout, but when we come back, Renard Brown was one of the highest draft picks in Flames baseball history. Let's see how he's now using the sport to pour into young people.
That's all when this edition of Flame Central returns.
So you're looking for a university that's perfect for you, a school that has anything you could possibly need.
Anything?
You want a place that has the programs you want to study, and maybe a few more, just in case you change your mind.
I think I'm going to sign up for the fashion design program.
All right. A place with state-of-the-art facilities. I mean, look at this campus.
And who doesn't love big-time sports?
And great recreational activities.
Okay, now we're on a roll. Somewhere you can hike, slide, strike, shoot, climb, eat, and most importantly, eat. You want a place that takes you to space? Okay, maybe not, but we can teach you how to fly, or pastor a church, or run a business. And all that with a great view? Yeah, I think I know a place.
Challenges, they're nothing new. At Liberty, we know they make you stronger, force you to learn, adapt, to overcome. When your next challenge comes, be ready. Meet it with a degree that propels you forward. We've helped champions like you succeed for 35 years and counting. And now, over 100,000 students are getting stronger every day. At Liberty University, challenges make champions. Let's overcome together.
Welcome back to the show. Today, we're taking a look at former Liberty Flames athletes who have followed a calling into coaching. Our next story is about Renard Brown. In the rich history of Liberty baseball, only Sid Bream was drafted higher than Brown, who was a third-round pick back in 1982. And while coaching wasn't his first profession following his playing days, later in his life, he realized the influence he could have through it. And it's something he's still faithfully doing today.
When I was born, I lived with my biological parents at the time, and they had a problem with drugs. Okay, so when I was born, I basically came into the world addicted to narcotics.
Renard Brown was a standout baseball player for Liberty University in the early 1980s. The .376 career hitter would go on to be selected in the 1982 MLB draft in the third round by Seattle, where he would play his way to the AAA level. But when his baseball career was drawing to a close, it was the experiences of his past that influenced his next step.
As I grew up and became older, I always wanted to be able to make a difference because, drugs and everything, it's always been here. That's one of the things that kind of pushed me to law enforcement. I knew eventually I was going to get into narcotics and do that type of work.
He would join the Texas Department of Safety, eventually serving as a narcotics officer. But he realized that he was dealing with people late in the process. People who were nearing the end of a long road paved with bad decisions.
Sometimes you deal with people and they're on their last leg. They're suicidal, or the world's just not working for them. Things are just not happening for them, and it's just so hard when you get into that kind of job. You don't really get to help people like I really thought. It's more of a punitive kind of thing.
So after a 25-year career in law enforcement, Renard would redirect his efforts toward prevention by teaching criminal justice in high school.
Who handles the responsibility part? You guys handle the responsibility part.
And he would also get to coach the sport he loves.
Watch that glove the whole way. Don't worry about your batter. He'll get out of the way if he has to.
The goal is to reach kids as a mentor now, helping them avoid the pitfalls that lay ahead.
You definitely have to try to reach these kids before they get to the point of no return. And that's really important because there's so many kids that, especially they get strung out on drugs nowadays, and not only drugs, they get involved in stuff that they can't get themselves out of. If you can reach them, let's say they reach them in 9th grade or reach them in 8th grade or through sports, that's a good way to try to reel them in and say, hey, look, this is the way things need to be done. And they say, well, how do you know, Coach? Well, because I've been there, done that.
And much of what he tries to instill in his students can be traced back to what he learned during his time at Liberty.
You really need to set yourself on some kind of solid foundation. And the best foundation, obviously, is Jesus Christ. I mean, if you get saved and Jesus is in your life, there's nothing better that you can have, because he's going to help you through the peaks and the valleys. He's going to be there for you. He's going to be your strength. He's going to be the person that you can lean on. Guys, take pride in the way you dress. Clean your uniform. If you got dirt on it, clean it. When I see these kids, I see myself. And when I see this school, I see the school that I was at. Kids are struggling. They don't know what they want to do with their lives. They got all these problems that come up every day. And then they're trying to decide, what do I do? And they don't know the answer. Obviously, the answer is Jesus Christ. That's the answer. They don't know that. But a lot of times, they can see Jesus in you. And so that's what I try to do with these kids. I try to walk around and be a walking example of what Jesus would do. Because you know what? We're humans. We're all going to make mistakes.
The job may not be easy, but every once in a while, Renard gets a call that makes it all worthwhile.
I had this kid that was a real troubled kid, and he just never would listen to me. And I said, you know what? I said, there's more important things to life than sports. I said, hopefully one day you'll kind of grow up and you'll kind of see that. And, I got a call from him about 6 months ago. He says, Coach, everything you told me was true. Everything you told me about life is true. I just want to apologize to you. And I almost got a tear in my eye because, that's what it's all about. All right, here we go. I do it because I think I'm supposed to be here. God put me here. And every day something comes up or somebody comes up and I realize I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Good stuff today. Good stuff.
Still to come, from the field hockey pitch at Liberty to leading her own program, the story of Emily Densmore. That story and more when Flame Central returns.
Being a parent and helping your kids through school, it's not exactly easy. I mean, there's waking up at 5 a.m., the morning routine, helping with homework, sitting in traffic. You get it. What if there was a way you could get your kids a quality Christian education where they can work at any pace, any time, from anywhere? School that works for your schedule and frees your kids to keep doing what they love. Well, that's exactly what we do. LUOA, school that goes where you do.
So our daughter Bella did LUOA and she absolutely loved it.
Yeah, and all our kids, it was a little bit different how they did school because when they were in school, Duck Dynasty was going on.
For Bella, it worked out for us to just kind of go all the way homeschool, which that flexibility of being able to do school online and travel with us when she wanted to travel was just a really great blessing. And that's a great thing that LUOA offers is you can kind of move at your own pace, move faster if you need to.
So yeah, that certainly matched up for her.
Flexibility was
for sure
a key. So to be able to have LUOA to like guide her and have actual real life teachers and a whole framework set up was really, really helpful. I would say doing the online academy really prepared Bella for college. It actually, it's a lot of hard work, but the teachers are so great at helping you through it, helping you kind of through that learning curve. And I definitely feel like it really prepared her for what was to come for a college career.
At Liberty University, we understand life can be unpredictable, and when you need a resilient career, your education should withstand any test. So we've made sure the degree you need is within reach by freezing one of the lowest tuition rates in the nation for 8 years and counting, and giving scholarships, discounts, and credit for work you've already done. Because we're proud of what you do. We've done this for over 30 years, and we know how to help. We're here to help you.
Hey, welcome back to the show. Liberty Field Hockey is a relatively young program. It's only been around since 2011, and yet it's already producing alumni that are now leading their own programs.
Yeah, Emily Densmore is one of those. The App State head coach is hoping to show Christ to her athletes in the same way Liberty coaches did for her.
You want to know something? Because I'm mic'd up today. Yeah. It's like, people don't want to hear just like me talking about hockey, right? Like, they want funny. Yeah. Guys, we got to give the people what they want. But I'm not very funny, so I don't know how to do that. Full corners, rolling. Full corners, full corners. Yeah. That was a rocket. Let's go. That was a rocket. I never really thought that head coaching would be in the cards for me, especially here at App. But I'm very thankful that this is what the Lord had for me. Being one of the founding members of Liberty Field Hockey and now here as a Division I head coach 10 years ago would not have ever even imagined this or dreamed this. Being able to kind of follow in the footsteps of the coaches from Liberty that, mentored me and loved me and cared for me well, and to now be sitting in the same shoes that they were. Yeah, let's go up. Nice. Good touch, Claire. Crushing that backboard. There's pieces of wood flying off of it left and right.
You're teaching life through sport, right? You're leading people to Jesus through sport. It's about something so much bigger than what everyone's gonna evaluate you by and the results and things like that. So I think to have somebody that genuinely loves Jesus be leading another Division I program, I think it's outstanding. As soon as she got the job, whatever you need, because to be perfectly honest, becoming a head coach, no matter when it happens, whether you're 24 or 30, it's going to be like drinking from a fire hose for quite some time, because it's just a lot of new stuff. You haven't done it before. So for sure, as soon as she got him, like even before she did, just whatever you need. She's part of our coaching tree. She's part of our family. Anytime you have somebody go on from this place, whether they're representing us at the high school level, you know, as an assistant coach, head coach, D1, it's big time. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to train champions for Christ. That's the mission. That was Jody's mission before, you know, and that's obviously the school's mission. And to see somebody that loves Jesus get to go and lead another program is incredible.
Definitely be a moment where it's gonna be like, wow, this is surreal. Like, this is where I played, and now here I am, 10 years post-grad as a head coach. I'll probably take a moment and before the game starts and just pray, where I've prayed many prayers on that field, and now the opportunity to kind of coach against them, to be on the same sideline as Nikki and Heather and Alan is just gonna be, it's just gonna be a lot of fun, and I'm really excited just for the opportunities to compete against them. Coaching is definitely my mission field, and at the college level, you know, we're traveling, we're practicing every day, we're with one another often. It's such a great opportunity to use sports as an avenue to share about the Lord. Being able to share that with them is the greatest joy in coaching.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed these stories of former Flames that have gone into coaching. For many more great stories like this, as always, you can go to libertyflamecentral.com.
Is there any such thing as too much Flame Central? No. So if you want more, download and subscribe to the Flame Central podcast powered by Alcova Mortgage, and we add a little fun into that as well. For Matt, I'm Emily. We'll see you right back here next time.
As humans, we are constantly growing and learning in every stage of life, from taking our first steps to graduating college. The pursuit of knowledge is something we all strive for. Liberty University's vision was crafted with all of this in mind, to train champions for Christ from kindergarten to PhD. The K-12 years are some of the most formative years of our lives. That's why Liberty University Online Academy was created, to prepare the next generation for college through certified teachers and flexible Bible-based coursework that allows families to schedule their schooling around life. For many, the college experience is something very special. Students from across the globe attend our world-class campus to learn and grow in community, not only through academics and athletics, but with spiritual growth being at the center of it all. And for those seeking a different experience, Liberty University Online provides access to a flexible, high-quality college education with over 600 programs to choose from, with access to a campus you can still call home. We believe that learning is a lifetime pursuit, and education should be accessible to everyone. So whatever stage of life you're in, you can train to be a champion for Christ at Liberty University.